We're reacting to Angry Cops. Let's hop into the video. The Legend of Lieutenant Dan by Angry Cops. Let's dive into the video.
Why you're assigned to stick out a Category 5 out on a 20-foot sailboat in Tampa Harbor.
God told me to come out here and get a boat. I came out here and got a boat.
So the plan's just to stick it out here?
Yeah, shake this place
Yeah,
up.
Florida man. This is the true Florida man right here.
Move over, Lieutenant Dan, because there's another Lieutenant Dan. A real
Another
Lieutenant
one?
Dan. Well, not a veteran Lieutenant Dan, but he is a sailor that's missing a leg, and he's made quite a splash.
True,
in the
true,
local
true.
news
Yeah, I can
and
agree
in
that.
Florida. Boom! Meet Lieutenant Dan, Joseph Malinowski.
That road records. Look at the drip he got. Yeah, look at that. Look at the drip.
Lieutenant Dan from the viral videos on TikTok and Facebook and all
Yep,
over social
all over the
medias,
place.
Twitter too. I got you on Twitter there, Lieutenant. For being brave and some might say dumb enough to stay in Florida, in Tampa Bay, in his 20-foot, 22-foot sailboat
Right.
during Hurricane Milton. People checking in on him during the hurricane was like real-life Anchorman Panda watch. Except instead of a pregnant panda, it's seeing whether or not a single amputee man who looks as though he imbibes on the pipe, not judging,
Right.
can stay alive in his boat that looks like it's made out of straw. And just
Facts.
like any viral video thing, personality, a little bit of controversy happened. Yeah, some controversy with
Okay,
Lieutenant
okay.
Dan, because people found out that he had a criminal history. Uh-oh, how bad is it? Some would say really bad. Some would
Really
say
bad?
really, really bad. But then, just like M. Night Shyamalan, there's a twist. Before we go through this roller coaster of ups and downs that is the story
Yeah.
and the waves, oddly enough, in the hurricane that Lieutenant Dan was trying to survive, and we will survive in this story. A word from this video sponsor.
Get some money. Get some money. Get some money. Get some money. I gotta quit. All right, here we
Like, what the frig is going on in North Carolina?
go. Wait. There's a lot. Anyways, let's continue.
Start this thing
Thumbnail.
off by meeting Lieutenant Dan. Here he is, John. I keep
Damn.
calling, I want to call him John
John
Jacob
Hancock.
Jingleheimer Schmidt because his name is so long. Joseph John Malinowski. Crazy
There we go.
last name, right? I mean, Joseph John, two first names, you know, as a first and middle name. You would say it's unique.
You'd be wrong.
It is not a unique name. What are the odds? Fucking Polacks. Joe, also known as Lieutenant Dan, is no spring chicken. While others are fleeing Florida, he's staying put.
The true definition of a Florida man. You know what I'm saying?
Anchoring up, tying his boat off to one of the piers down there in Tampa Bay. I'm going to
Right.
say Tampa. I'm pretty sure it's Tampa, but it could be anywhere in Florida because Lieutenant Dan gets around. Now we
Facts,
all enjoy
facts,
the
facts.
Florida man. And what could be more Florida man than a man with an amputated leg
Right.
standing on a 20-foot skiff in the middle of a hurricane saying, I suggest few
He's like, ha! Are you afraid to get wet?
things.
I can't play the
are as
clip 'cause
Florida
I'll get
man as
copyrighted.
Lieutenant Dan. And that's when things start getting crazy. Who is this man? Everybody's interested in Lieutenant Dan. What a
Right,
unique
right.
nickname. We need to get this guy some money. Let's take care of Lieutenant Dan. Let's watch and see if Lieutenant Dan survives. But then
Right.
if he does, we'll take care of Lieutenant Dan.
Why does that sound so familiar?
It's like a hurricane
Exactly.
version of The Bachelorette. Except instead of a rose, you're given another day to live.
Man, oh, I saw one TikTok of it. I don't know how it went so viral. Maybe I didn't see it on my side because I'm in North Carolina. So, well, I mean, we didn't get hit with a hurricane too either. So, that's, yeah.
Now here comes the ups and downs of this tale of Lieutenant Dan. You see, the internet is a strange place, and once you become, I will say, an icon, or at least a center of focus
Or a
on the
meme.
interwebs and social media, well, people go digging around and start
Right.
snooping and start trying to figure out who you really are, or at least they try to paint a picture of who they
Who
think you are.
Yep.
Sources that I made it the f up.
Based on that internet footprint that you've left behind. And unfortunately for Joseph John Malinowski, there are some people with some dirty prints that share the same name as good old Lieutenant Dan. Now,
Damn.
before people started snooping around too much, everybody wanted to give him a couple bucks, including a streamer, a very well-known live streamer, who I have to look up because I don't know him that well. Aiden Ross.
Aiden Ross,
I've heard
yeah.
of him before. Sorry, I don't know you, bud. Does he need a following, or do I need? He's probably got way more followers than I do.
Most
Good
likely.
for you, kid. Well, Aiden sees what's going on and says, you know what? I want to give this guy like 50 to 100,000 bucks to get a new boat. Maybe even a kick streaming deal, right? If you haven't heard of Kick, it's a streaming program similar to like Twitch or YouTube Live, where you go on, you stream whatever's going on, cooking, cleaning, video games, you hanging out on a boat with your half of a leg trying to survive a hurricane, whatever you want. And your friends and subs that follow you can give you a couple bucks here and there, and you can start your own business just streaming and living life, and people will pay you to do it. Well, that sounds like fun, but let's not forget those internet sleuths while they came around after one or two Google searches and tried to tear down poor Joe. And listen, I'm not gonna lie, I was one of them. I made a response to somebody saying, hey, we should support this guy and give him a bunch of money and get him up on his feet, and I said, there's been some discovery stating that he might have touched some children. Might have given them some grape drink.
That cannot be true, right? Not Lieutenant Dan. Come on, Lieutenant Dan. We can't be doing that.
If you understand what I'm saying. Now, because I got caught up in it. I was looking at a whole bunch of posts of just some random freaking people. Always do your due diligence on the internet. Don't go on. Every time I want to say something smart ass and fast, I end up getting bit on the ass.
Simple detective work.
Sorry, Joe, from me to you. Now, I immediately went underneath my statement and said, hold on a second. There's more to this than what it seems. I could have made a mistake. Let me do a deep dive, and that's what we're doing here today. So let's dive a little deeper into what people thought was Lieutenant Dan's criminal past. Now, Joseph John Malinowski, like I said, not a common name.
Yeah, that's not a common name, honestly. So how do people mix him up with everybody else? Unless there's another one with his same last name, same name, but that's like rare as hell.
There are several Joe Malinowskis, one of which lived in Illinois, who kidnapped and gave grape drink to a young girl and appears to still be in prison. Good. That guy should
justice
still
system.
be in prison for the rest of his life. Never
Amen.
ever see the light of day. Don't like people who touch kids. Not a good start. And another John Malinowski in Wisconsin who ended up giving grape drink, his stepdaughter, and has since been released. Gross. This guy.
How is he? What? Release to his step. He's a release. So yeah. So the other guy is in. Yeah. Okay. So we just had no standards across the U.S. for this shit, right?
This guy is gross. Bad person. But he's not Lieutenant Dan. And like a few people, I made that mistake right away, but I'm here to clear the air, Lieutenant Dan.
Clear the air!
And let you know that I'm sorry. I shouldn't have made that comment so quickly. Because Lieutenant Dan's done none of those things. Now, Lieutenant Dan does have a lot of mugshots, but what are they for? They're for traffic tickets. They're for buying a boat a year or two ago for $1, and, well, people who run the boat stuff down there, I'd assume it's their Division of Transportation or Fish and Wildlife, not sure, said, hey, how did you buy a boat for $1? Whose boat is this? Did you steal this boat? And then after their investigation, they dropped all the charges for that. So,
of course.
Traffic tickets?
Yep.
Okay.
Not bad.
A boat that might not have been his, that he might have intentionally or accidentally sunk, that cost him $1. But then all the charges got dropped on that. All right, so that's gone. And then a strange charge of him trying to set a woman on fire. Now let me make this short.
Wait, what? That's the most Florida. If it's true, that's the most Florida shit. That's normal in Florida for some odd reason. Setting somebody on fire.
The story is that Lieutenant Dan was trying to get some junk off of some sort of park bench and used gasoline to try and get it off. Now, for those of you that are versed in, we'll say like commercial chemicals, you know that diesel or gas or straight alcohol can assist in removing stains or things that are stuck on or
emotional damage.
It doesn't work for emotional damage
sometimes. And well, some random Florida woman was walking by and said, hey, you can't be setting that bench on fire, to which Lieutenant Dan was like, off lady, I'm just trying to clean this thing off. To which she took as him trying to set her on fire. And let's say worst case scenario that he was gonna set the bench on fire. He didn't. And let's say that he tried to set the woman on fire and he like turned quickly and splashed some gasoline her way. Well, he didn't set her on fire. And the end result of that investigation, you ready for this? All charges dropped. And maybe some woman was being a little bit of a Karen, when she saw
That's
Lieutenant Dan
crazy.
just doing some weird shit with some gasoline trying to get some stains off a bench. Who knows? Either way, nobody cares because the charges were dropped. Now here's the worst thing that Lieutenant Dan did. Lieutenant Dan got in a scuffle with a Florida cop. Punched him in the nose, and the cop punched him right back. And
they got
Dan
fighting.
served like 6 months, between 6 months to a year for that.
Oh, so a knuckle fight, pretty much a fight, but not really a fight. But you can't punch the cop, but it's a fight. You went to jail for him. I could get behind that.
Listen, I don't like nobody getting in a fight with me and bopping me on the nose.
Right.
6 months to a year.
That's kind of excessive, right?
Seems a little bit much. And
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
know. Look at Dan. Look at Dan. How hard is he hitting you? Which
That AC, bro. Honestly, he's not lying. How hard a 1 minute leg is hitting you? You know what? We're not gonna. Let's continue. Let's continue. We're not gonna go down that route.
How hard is he hitting you? Which foot does he have to lean into? Because he's only got one
You ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan.
to really give you a good bop on the nose. I think 6 months is fair. I think a year's a little much. Anywho, now that we've ironed
said like
that
4.
out,
4 months is fine.
Dan isn't some weird kid toucher or diddler from Illinois or Wisconsin.
Right.
He's just some guy that gets in vehicle and traffic trouble and finds boats and accidentally sinks them and has some crazy Karen come up to him and scream at him, and then he gets in a fight with a cop one time.
Right.
Honestly, it sounds... Johnny Cash has done far worse than Lieutenant Dan, and he was a multimillionaire. And people love Johnny Cash for being a little bit of a weirdo. I know I certainly do. But in the middle of these allegations of him touching people and his real criminal history coming back out, everybody was like, look at this man, he's a menace to society.
Children, won't somebody please think of the children?
Started yelling at Aiden Ross, the live streamer, and saying, you shouldn't give him any of that money.
That's crazy.
Now, I don't know Aiden Ross, and I do know Aiden Ross's response to that, and honestly, it would be similar to myself. I would tell those people,
Fuck off. Yep.
I'm gonna do what I want with my money, and
Facts.
you can all suck a
My dick.
proverbial
Yep. I'll
and
say it.
watch me do whatever I want. With all due respect, take a long walk off of a short pier. Now, Ian Ross said, hey, listen, I wanted to get you a Kick Live streaming deal, but, you know, Kick's really not into it. But screw it, I've got some money, and I like you, and I want to set you up for success. So I'm
Exactly.
going to help you buy a boat within that $100,000 range. And that is super nice of Aiden
W. Ross, bro.
And guess what? Lieutenant Dan made it. Ah, yeah, that's right. He
Survived.
lived through the storm. People were checking in on him while he was getting tipped and tossed around when they could. And the following day, when the hurricane was over, they just popped on over and saw Lieutenant Dan there. And they asked
Smoking
him,
a cigarette.
Lieutenant Dan, what's the best
Smoking and
thing you did
joking.
after you got out your boat? And Lieutenant Dan had a fantastic response.
Smoked half a joint. I'm high. I'm watching all the people running around like crazy because of all the water.
Lieutenant Dan said, well, I shouldn't be saying this, but I sparked up a blunt and smoked it.
Hell yeah, I want to say it too.
Lieutenant Dan.
Shit.
He's like Popeye the Sailor Man, but for Florida Man. Popeye
Florida
the
man.
Florida Man.
Popeye the Florida
So
man.
that's the whole spiel with Lieutenant Dan.
Okay, that's
the
good to know,
one-legged
man.
hurricane hero of Florida. Now, if you want to support this channel and the weird deep dives that I
Subscribe!
do on internet folk and
Drop a like,
policing
comment
and
down
military
below.
life, well, then you go ahead and pick yourself up a shirt. I got Army Strong.
I'm be strong.
Yeah. Moving sandbags 15 feet over that way. Why?
'Cause why?
I don't know. It's just what the Army told me to do. That's the best way to support the channel. By the way, Whoopi hoodies are back. I only have
Yes, I gotta
a
go
couple
get
hundred
mine.
of them. So they sold out last year, and everybody's like, "Where's the Whoopi hoodies?" Well, they're back, but there's not a lot of them. So pick
Okay,
them up, hurry
okay.
up, get them before they're gone.
Yeah, I
and
might
of
have
course, if
to.
you enjoy the content and you want more and you want it uncensored, go over
Ooh.
to Pepperbox. Yes, I'll always be uploading here on YouTube for free. But
Free 99
like I
plus
said,
X.
uncensored, longer versions, a little bit more back and forth. You go to Pepperbox and check it out. Cheapest way to support the channel is leave a comment. What you think about Lieutenant Dan? Did you
He's cool.
get
He's a
caught
cool
up
guy.
in
He's a
the- he
Florida
might have
man.
been
I spoke a
toucher
joke with him,
and then
too.
found out he wasn't like
I hate how people get so jealous when someone get insta famous. They start looking at your past instantly. Eventually, I look up people and start trying to look at my past. Well, he did this, he did that. Man, is it your business? And who cares? Honestly, the past isn't a past for a reason. Who flipping cares? People be hating.
I did. I made that mistake. Jeez, felt fucking stupid. Like the second I posted, I was like, shouldn't have done that.
Yep.
You should have looked into some of these stupid tweets from Bethany Regurgistan with 500 followers who just God. Stupid private. All right. See you next
See
time.
you next time, Riddles. Yeah, I'll see you next time too. Anyways, W video by Angry Cops. Clear the air, nice and simple. Angry Cops, I appreciate you doing that for people. That's why I love you as a YouTuber. That's just me personally. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to check out his channel down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.